question is, how deep does the rabbit hole really go? But is it worth knowing?
Yeah, there really isn't an easy way to like do this without making it look goofy as hell, so I'm just gonna jump cut. This is it. This this is what you get. I don't have the budget for anything else. You get the dorm room desk experience. This is not supposed to be in the frame. This keeps me alive. This is my Lego bonsai tree. Yeah. Okay. The topic at hand. The big thing of the show. That is the crying of Lot 49, the 49th lot that is crying. Actually, hold on. I have a thing. This was supposed to be a quick bit. It's taken me a minute. Okay. I brought scissors. Okay. We're gonna. This tape smells weird. It like smells funky. There we go. It says number one theorist on the bottom. Anyway, back to the discussion at hand. Okay, so the Crying of Lot 49. The Crying of Lot 49 is a novel. It's a good novel. It's a good novel in the sense that after you're done reading it, it makes you wonder if it was ever a good idea, if it was ever worth it. In a good way. That's a compliment. Thomas Pynchon is he's a real fella. He's a dude. He wrote this novel and then refused to elaborate. He just said, no, that's it. I'm done. I don't really care about giving you anything else. He kind of drops the title as a gut punch ending. And you're like, oh, that's cool. That's the title of the book. Wow. Really cool if you wrapped up the mystery. He didn't do any of that. He didn't do any of it at all. And I'm not spiteful in any way. It's just I don't like being dropped, especially by a mystery novel, because you feel like you read it for the mystery and then you get, oh, it's the Crying of Lot 49. Well, yeah, no shit. That said, it did get me thinking, what inspired this? What was Pynchon pulling from? Where did this come from? Was this the brainchild of Pynchon himself? Did something happen in his life that was like the catalyst for this conspiracy? Where did the characters come from? There's so many questions. There's so little answers. I decided to look into it. I did a little research. And what I found was just as ambiguous as the ending of the book. The general gist is that through some research, nothing really inspired this. This is Pynchon's brainchild, essentially, just his idea. Male conspiracies do exist, but they're just like they're not in the grand sense that the book portrays them as. They're mostly just like fraud. So if you're big into fraud, hey, I got great news for you. This ultimately, this whole research rabbit hole I went down left me unsatisfied because I went for answers and I didn't find any. A lot like Oedipus. Real connecting with literature there. It's crazy. I decided to take it upon myself to look up some actual corporate conspiracies and delve a little bit into the weeds, into the rabbit hole, and search for my own answers. Spoiler alert, I did not find any. So that's fun. So what we're gonna do, or rather what I'm gonna do, and you're gonna watch me attempt to do, is go down the rabbit hole of corporate conspiracies, just like good old Oedipus. Get fervently wrapped up in mystery and end up nowhere. That's the story. Let's just do it. Okay, so the first conspiracy on the corporate ladder is none other than New Coke. This is an interesting topic because it is it's not that deep. It really just isn't that deep. So in the 80s, Coke said, yeah, we're not paying for real sugar anymore. So we're switching to high fructose corn syrup, which is what all of us are drinking now. And we all know it. Back in the 80s, this was a big thing. This was a big deal. This was a monumentous switch, basically. And so Coca-Cola decided to take the opportunity and market it as something big. New Coke. That was the label. New Coke. Guys, it's Coke, but it's new. And so it hit store shelves, and people were like, wow, this kind of tastes like ass. And so Coke had a bit of a panic. And we're like, well, shit. They don't like it. What do we do? Let's bring back Coke Classic. Coke sweetened with real sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. So they brought it back and marketed it as Coke Classic. And of course, sales for Coke Classic skyrocketed it because nobody wanted high fructose corn syrup. So the conspiracy comes from people thought, well, maybe Coke made New Coke to then sell it, to get people to hate it, to then get people to want the old Coke. So then when they want it in a high enough volume, Then they just make the old Coke again, and they have a massive sales spike because everybody wants the classic Coke flavor, and so they're going to market it as classic Coke, despite nothing really having changed at all. And of course, it worked. It worked like a charm. And then the best part is that when they confronted the president of the company about it, he just said, "No, we didn't do it. We just didn't do it. We're not smart enough for that. We didn't think about that." Like, okay, buddy, I can believe you. Like, that's fine. Like, I'm willing to just like stretch my beliefs just enough to meet you halfway. What if? What if? So the thing is that every time you are drinking what is considered normal Coke now, you are drinking, in essence, new Coke. Because none of them are sweetened with real sugar anymore, except if you get the bottled Coke. Again, which is like a novelty item, so of course the price is skyrocketed, and you pay more for it. So in the end, I guess it really did work, because when everyone asks for a Coke, it's like, oh, is it with real sugar? And of course, it's like now it's like a status thing. If you drink like sugared Coke with real sugar, you're suddenly like an elitist. But it all spawned from some shitty marketing campaign they had to switch to high fructose corn syrup. We all drink it anyway. So, whose game are we really in? We're just pawns. Okay, so the next conspiracy is, I would say, like, equally as interesting, though not as high stakes, I think. So this spawns from a YouTuber, who goes by Shane Dawson. We won't talk about Shane Dawson. This is not about him, though he has done many very, very questionable things. This is about a YouTube video he made regarding a conspiracy related to Chuck E. Cheese. So the claim is that employees, if a table finishes their pizza and there are still slices left, the employees will take those slices of pizza back to the kitchen and then use those slices to form a quote-unquote new pizza, and then serve that to the guests as if it was fresh out of the oven with, they're not going to tell anybody. And so that is the central claim being made. And the evidence for this is scant, I would say. The evidence was essentially photos of pizzas that had like mismatched slices, and they were basically saying that, like, a fresh pizza doesn't look like that. It's a bit of a weak argument, but you can see where they're coming from. And then there was also the argument was also made that one of his friends who had worked at Chuck E. Cheese was just like, yeah, we do that. That's a thing that we do. Who's to say they're an inherently trustworthy source? Who knows? I'm inclined to be like initially very skeptical about this claim because it comes from a YouTuber. I just feel like you could say anything if you have a big enough channel and be like, oh yeah, it's just the truth. Everyone will believe you, especially if you have 20 million subscribers, and at the same time you're competing for monetization on YouTube, and so you're making money off of it, right? And so it's like the more outlandish your claim, the more money you make. It kind of checks out. And this gained some traction. Multiple news outlets eventually picked the story up, and it even got to the point where Chuck E. Cheese, Charles Entertainment Cheese himself, was going on their official, corporate Twitter account, and being like, guys, we don't do that. Like, level with me. And the tweet is, the claims made about Chuck E. Cheese's and our pizza are unequivocally false. No conspiracies here. Our pizzas are made to order, and we prepare our dough fresh in restaurant, which means that they're not always perfectly uniform in shape, but always delicious. Be so for real with me right now. So aside from not a single person on this planet agreeing that Chuck E. Cheese pizza is actually good, I would say it is an okay response. It's just fine. It doesn't really prove anything wrong. It's just like, hey guys, we didn't do it. And I guess the sad thing is that that's how a lot of these conspiracy theories just kind of die. The company comes out and goes, guys, we didn't do it. We don't know what's going on. And everyone's just like, okay, sure. And then most people will take that explanation and move on. And you have the few people who are, will fight the last dying breath saying that no, Chuck E. Cheese recycles their pizza. I know. But yeah, it's this one is interesting, and it's one I'm inclined to believe more than the new Coke one, weirdly. And I don't feel like this is rooted in the way that Chuck E. Cheese does things. This isn't in, their employee terms. You must recycle pizza. I think it's some establishments, employees just don't care. And they see leftover slices and they say, I ain't making another pizza. And so they just put it together, and that's that's done deal. So ultimately, this one isn't crazy. I definitely see it though. I can see why people would be so interested in this, but I don't really think it's any deeper than that. I don't think it's a big corporate mishap. Okay, this next one is interesting and is a bit of a favorite of mine because I've experienced it, and I'm sure if you have an Apple product, you have probably also talked about this with your family and made some sort of joke about it, I'm sure, at some point. So the theory goes that over time, your device will slow down in terms of performance, just general like operating times, how long things take to load, as a ploy to get you to upgrade to a new model, or to just buy a new phone outright from Apple instead of, going through like a plan or something. And so this one has an interesting conclusion, because for a long time, it was just a thought in the minds of iPhone owners or iPad owners that, hey, I've noticed that weirdly, these new phone models are coming out, and the phone that I have that has seemingly been working just fine, is slower now. It's a rational chain of thought. So this one got big. This one got really big. That's why I was saying if you own an iPhone, if your family does, that you have probably talked about the same thing with them without even knowing that it was a long-held conspiracy theory. And so at a certain point, Apple was like, okay, guys, we'll break the silence on this one. And so they come out and they say, yes, we are slowing down your phone, but we're actually helping you. It's making your life better. So their argument is that as iPhones age, so do their batteries. And as their batteries age, the phone's performance just kind of decreases and degrades over time. And so they purposely slow down the phone to lengthen the life of the dying battery. And so they're arguing that slowing down the phone is essentially a public service that they're doing, because it helps you retain your older phone for longer without having to upgrade. This one is weird to me because it's like, I get why they're doing it. And on the surface, it does seem like, oh, thanks for doing that. But it also is weirdly malicious in that you don't have control over what's happening to your device. If you spend $1,500 buying an iPhone, like, you sure as hell would want to be able to control how effective it is, especially if it's like a newer phone, because they always advertise like, oh, it has the new Apple A15 Bionic chip. Like, okay, that's great, but if you don't let me use it like properly, then what the fuck is the point? And so I don't know, I'm torn. Part of me it really thinks that this is just like, you don't need to slow it down, just let them kind of die on their own. But at the same time, I get why they're slowing them down so they can last longer. It's weird. It has like I don't like it. I don't like that you're not in control of your device. And Apple's always been that way. It's like when the Mac came out, it was all closed ecosystem, and they were like, no, you can't get into the back unless you have special tools to get into the back of the thing, because Steve Jobs didn't want you to build a ham radio with your iMac. Windows machines came along and suddenly you could. And Apple has still held firm, like, no, you can't jailbreak, you can't customize the inside of your phone, you can't upgrade in any way. It's very much closed ecosystem. And so I get why Apple would do that, but it's just, it like, I don't know. It's not, I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, so this last one is out there. It is way more out there than the last couple of them, And to me, it doesn't even make, like, yeah, it's a conspiracy theory. It's supposed to be kind of wild and wacky, but, like, I don't see many people believing this at all. So the theory is, or the conspiracy is, that Tim Hortons, which has, for the most part, is a Canadian coffee. It's kind of like Canadian Dunkin' Donuts. The theory is that they they lace their coffee with nicotine to make it more addicting. This one is just crazy enough to, like, I see why people would believe it. But at the same time, it's like, how, in what world does this pass? Like, seriously, in what world does it make sense? So this rumor mill, basically, I mean, it has a bunch of sources, but the one that is the most outlandish and weird is that a customer had a severe allergic reaction to drinking Tim Hortons coffee, and only when pressed about it by the treating doctor did an executive for Tim Hortons have to divulge all the active ingredients within the coffee, and apparently one of them was nicotine. This is, of course, a story that has no concrete substance. Nobody's come out and said, oh, I was the one guy or gal who had an allergic reaction to Tim Hortons coffee. Nobody's come out and said that explicitly. So it's just something from the rumor mill. It doesn't have a concrete source. Regardless, in the US, we have restrictions against what you can and can't put in food without people's knowledge. Of course, nicotine is one of those things. And we have the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, to make sure that, we know what we're eating and we don't suddenly become like nicotine addicts when you're just trying to drink coffee. Canada, of course, has the same thing, which is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, which performs pretty much the exact same purpose. They did a thorough test and they said they found nothing, which, let's be honest, is not really surprising. Of course, you could make the theory that they're in on it and Tim Hortons is, like, in cahoots with the Canadian government to get one over on the populace. That in itself is another rabbit hole. We won't go down that one this time around. And funnily enough, this is another one where the company itself has, like, actually come out and said that we don't do this. If you go to Tim Hortons' FAQ page on their website, they specifically have a section that says, yeah, guys, this is a myth. If you hear this, it's not true. We don't put nicotine or any other addictive substances in our coffee. I do think this theory is funny because it's like, it's kind of great advertising in a way, because it's like, oh, your coffee is so addicting that I think there's nicotine in it. It's like, okay, well, on the one hand, you have caffeine addicts, which is a genuine thing. They could just be addicted to caffeine. On the other hand, maybe it's just really, really good coffee. If people genuinely think that you are lacing the coffee with something, that's either a testament to the country's caffeine addiction or a testament to the quality of your product, which I just think is, like, that just makes sense to me. Like... So that's it. Those are the stories I have gathered. I hope you felt at least a little bit like Oedipus Moss in some way. I hope that you feel capitalistically enlightened. The Crying of Lot 49 was one of the shorter books that we read over the semester, but I do think it had one of the largest impacts on the class, because anytime that the concept of paranoia would come around, we'd always go back to good old Oedipus Moss. And it's just fun. Anytime I catch myself thinking about a conspiracy theory, I always think about The Crying of Lot 49, and just how the concept of truth has really ceased to exist, especially in the digital age. Everything is sort of misconstrued online. You can never get a straight answer from anybody. It's chaos. It really is the pinnacle of what Pynchon was trying to get at. So over the years, I feel like this novel has become more relevant than it was when it was published. Which I don't think that's a good thing, but it certainly is interesting to watch. So yeah, I mean, we'll all be on the sidelines, while the world's falling apart. After college, who knows? You know, I'm sure there'll be 100 more capitalistic scandals to go over. So those are the stories. That's me, and I guess my closing advice is don't be consumed by existentialism. Yeah. I can take this thing off now. Also, I've been told that this looks like an N. It's an H, by the way. It's supposed to be theorist.